All right, number 5. Let's move on. Funding, supplier agreements, cash flow, etc. So resourcefulness is the next hurdle to overcome, because as you grow, you need to fund it. And I think for a lot of people early on in the pod, when you said, oh, we were into it for about 800 grand, that freaks a lot of people out.
Yep.
So how do you get there when you don't have 800 grand?
Yeah, and sorry, that was actually over 19, 18, 22. I think it was nearly 3 years that it took to get to that.
But that 800, was that 800 cold hard cash that you had in your bank account, or was that reinvesting profits?
So I was always reinvesting profits, but we had to put 800 grand cold hard cash to get the business to this level. Now, a lot of businesses have gotten to this level without having that much cash, because you can get financing you can get product financing, you can get ANZ financing. There's a lot of product financing solutions out there.
Why haven't you used that?
I did. I basically put the money up myself because I had it. Recently, I got a loan, but the money's kind of just sitting there to grow, and I haven't used it. So I don't know. I used it because I had it, and because I'm an old European tight ass.
You took it. You beat me to it, mate.
And I'm like, pay 10% interest or use my own money. But yeah, it's probably handicapped my growth in other opportunities, right?
But to get back to the question, in reality, let's say somebody's listening to this and they've got 20 grand to start. You know, what would they do? Like, I know you guys have done incredibly well at MX Store of compounding using internal cash flow, right?
Well, we internal cash flow and terms. You know, that like terms is what's really built.
Which is finance, right?
You know, which is finance.
So what you're talking
it's
about
just someone
is
else is financing it, right?
You're just saying getting the supplier to give you longer to pay.
Correct.
So that you can sell the product and pay them back before you have to pay.
Correct. So like the key is to sell that product multiple times before you actually have to pay it back.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where a lot of
this is a really big area of growing these types of businesses, because they're so capital intensive.
And pressure creates diamonds, right? Like I had some capital, so I put it in. But if I didn't have the capital, I would have to find a more resourceful way of doing it. And a big one that we haven't done yet, but we need to do, and I think we're going to head to China in April, is to negotiate our terms, right? To get better terms. That's a huge one, especially when you're starting out, to get longer terms.
Yeah, but in reality, can you get it long enough that you have it shipped from China into Amazon and sell it before you owe them the money?
Yeah,
that's the bottom line.
Well, so the other thing, you know, a lot of people get fixated on profit margin. You know, my profit margin needs to be 20%. I would say when you're starting out, if your profit margin is only 5 or 10%, but your ROI on that product is 120%, that's okay. Now, what that basically means is that for every unit that you sell at say every unit you buy for $1, you're getting $1.20 back. So you're using that extra 20 cents to fund the next orders, right? So as long as you can fund those first orders and you've got an ROI above 100%, then you can continue to fund your growth. Slower, but you can fund your growth. A lot of the problem is people have too many products with a low ROI and they don't spread it out. So you need a mix.
James and I both just used NAB Finance recently. And what was your experience with that, James?
We're just going through it right now.
Yeah.
But they're it's slower than usual to get it put together. It always is.
Takes months.
We were speaking to them yesterday, actually, and the green light was waiting on some other financials. But their points since we first started, there's been a couple of interest rate rises, is 11% per annum on a half brick facility over 180 days. So I'm like, that's great.
What's a brick? You keep saying
$1 million
bricks.
bucks.
What's a brick?
$1 million bucks.
Okay,
Gangster.
That's what they call it.
Just want to make sure that everyone knows what a brick is.
So you get a $500,000 line of credit from the NAB,
correct,
National Australia Bank, and they're charging 11%, but it's a 6-month facility, right? I've got the same facility. So what that means for the listeners is James can get an invoice from a supplier, and he can pay that invoice from NAB, and NAB will pay the invoice. Let's say it's for $500,000. In 6 months from now, you have to pay back the $500,000 plus interest at a rate of 10%. Because you've had it for 6 months, effectively it's 5%.
Correct.
So you have to pay $500,000 and $25,000 in interest, and they give you 6 months, right? So in other words, you've got 6 months to sell that inventory, make all the margin on it, and you pay them. I've been using it. It's been an absolute game changer for my business.
And if even for, I don't know whether your stuff's freightable or not, but if you're using sea freight and your usual lead time, it's anywhere from 45 to 60 days, it's around about a 90-day inventory cycle. So in a 180-day facility, you got 2 cycles out of the same money, so you can turn it over twice, which is nuts. And then if you with a higher ticket thing, and this is you probably can't do it on Amazon, well, you can't, is if you start selling back orders, and we learnt this the hard way, when you run out of stock, you start creating more need and urgency around it and start selling back orders. So you not only get the money, finance the money, you're selling stuff you haven't actually got.
We just did that.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
20% of the inventory was sold before the container had even landed.
Totally. And
as soon as it landed, just unpacked and went, which was great.
And not on terms either. There's not a 50% down payment on it. It's full tilt. To create urgency around it. We only got 2 coming. It's 100% down. They might wait 60, 80 days.
Yeah, that's how we closed a lot of sales. Was, hey, the container's already selling out that hasn't landed yet.
So this is a first class problem. Like once you get to this point, your proof of concept has been proven and whatnot. These ways are fantastic. If someone is just starting out, there's other things you can do. If you've got the idea and you've got the willingness to work, partner with someone that is willing to invest. Has the money.
This again, hurdle number 5: funding, supply agreements, cash flow. That's where your mentorship, that's where your mastermind comes in handy, because it is just a problem to overcome. So many people think, I don't have the money, I don't have 800 grand, I'm out. No, there's so much money out there, guys. If you've got a business that's growing that needs $800,000 to keep growing, trust me, there is a shitload of money waiting for you.
I had a friend, and he came to me for some advice on this topic. And he got a new supplier, and he saved about 30%, which was massive, right? And it's already a very successful business. But cash flow is an issue, right, to get the stock. And I said to him, because terms was the issue. They wouldn't give him terms, right? And the terms are very, very, very small. 30-day term is an example, which is a standard term in Australia. And I told him, you've already saved 30%. Have you just thought to yourself, why don't you go back to them and say, listen, if I pay you, they don't know you've saved 30%. You know you've saved 30%, right? So they think they're getting a good deal. If you go back to them and say, listen, how about if I pay you X% more, but you give me 90-day terms? If you know that you're turning over that product, right, multiple times in that time, it's going to be well worth it.
Yeah.
If you don't go down the external financing model as an example, right? So again, that's just another way of looking at it, right? And hence being around people that understand money and turnover and cash flow. Yeah. These are the little things that you can think about, because you're already saving 30%. So what if you save 20%, give him an extra 10%, they're going to go, actually, you know what, we're already making good margin. He's going to give us another 10%. And sure, I'll give him an extra 30 days or, 60 days.
This is an area that, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and that's why this comes after the working out Amazon, right? Like it literally does come in steps, and why then these masterminds become so much more important. I asked, there's an accountant who does all my EMDG grants, so it's an export grant that is offered in Australia. I said, I was curious, what's the number one reason why people succeed and why people fail based on what you've seen? And he basically said those who succeed have generally had some experience with these parts of business out of Amazon, or have access to someone with these experiences outside of Amazon. So it's not always about your revenue or your profit. It's about these inner workings of how to
finance,
get cash flow, how to turn over things,
When I met with NAB on the inventory financing, I'm with NAB Private, and they said to me, and I can almost quote you, because one of my favourite questions is asking people who are connected into high net worth people, what are the high net worth people doing? Like, I do this with my accountant, I do it with my bankers. Like, what are people at my level and above doing that I'm not doing? And they said, Adam, none of our clients at this level have their own money in inventory. Are you serious? Why would you? No, they have a facility with us. We pay all their inventory. They just pay us back 6 months later. And that's how we make money. They make money. That's it. There's no limit to inventory, like how much inventory they can have. It's just whether their business is big enough to sustain it. And I was just like, what the hell? How long has this shit been going on? Like, because I've come from nothing. you think you only trade with what's in your wallet, right?
There you go.
But as you get older and more experienced, and it's just like that big shift in thinking that most working class people listening to this are so limited in a cage. They're like a fish in a tank, doesn't even realise the tank's
and
there.
it applies to us too. Like,
I totally.
Like to me, like
I'm a working class
Like
Australian.
you've just said to me, Mark, what the hell are you doing with your own money in that business? Like,
Totally.
I have to make that shift. So I'm learning something.
Too wog, mate. You're too wog.
Well, it's that mentality, right? Of, oh, debt is bad. Debt is bad. We've all been taught that. Oh, but there is such a thing as good debt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you're borrowing money off someone at 10% and you're making 50, who's the smarter guy?
If you know what you're doing. And, I'm learning this in real estate. One of my really good friends, Lebanese developer, phenomenally successful. And I said, do you take much debt? What's your LVR? He goes, Adam, I will take as much money as the banks will give me.
Yeah.
I am a capital allocator because I know how to allocate the capital better than they do.
Yeah.
And Udi said the same thing. At the time, he had $50 million of real estate. And he said to me, Adam, I will take it. Jeff Bezos. He just took money from everybody that would give him money at the right price. He would just take, because he said, what, you're going to give it to me at 10%? Do you know how much I can grow that with my machine at Amazon? Great, give it to me.
I love that. I can allocate debt better than they can. Like, how's that mindset?
It's a totally different mindset.
Those two words, capital allocator, I mean, we need to do some training on that because
totally.
That's
one of my big shifts this year, coming to this year, is I'm going to pay more attention to my family office. Now, family office is not a phrase that I've used for very long. It's only something now in the last couple of years as my wealth has grown, and I've go, oh, I actually have capital now to allocate, and so it's that getting the Browns Plains guy out of my head. And getting into, no, you're a family office now. You need to treat your capital as such, and you're planning as such. And for the entrepreneurs listening to this, you need to start going, okay, money is only an issue because I grew up poor, I grew up middle class Australian. Nobody taught me about cash flow, financing, inventory financing with NAB, investment. Eric was the investor in MX Store early on. You need to start learning that shit and just let go of your identity of being a povo person, right?
People tie so much
emotion,
self-worth and emotion into money, and those who are really, really good with money kind of use it like a football. It's just like a tool that they kick around to play the game.
And they're not afraid as much as we are when we're so emotionally attached. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you want to watch another clip, click here, or if you want to see the full episode, click here. Bye for now.